Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with K80Y TV, the series of Meet the Candidate. And we have the good pleasure, and we've been waiting a while, but thank you so much. We have Jeff Gorell, who's running for Congress in District 26. I got the number right there.
You did.
But Jeff, this is a wonderful time. You've probably seen the signs and seen them on social media. This is the actual real person. No makeup, no Photoshop, nothing. This is unfiltered, and we're really excited to have him here on Meet the Candidate. But Jeff, let's just start from the beginning. Where did this life actually begin for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks first of all for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Very
it's a
welcome.
pleasure to join you today. I grew up a son of a naval officer,
Okay.
so I lived all over the world, and I went to 5 elementary schools. But I was born in Alexandria, Virginia.
Mhm.
I lived in places like Italy and Hawaii and Los Angeles and Rhode Island, and I bounced around quite a bit as a young boy. And we settled down here in California, where my father retired. And so I had the honor and pleasure of working in the Capitol, the state capitol, for a little bit while going to college. And never had an interest, at least at that time, in politics. My interest was in being a writer. I would write things for my college newspaper. I would do interviews for written articles and things like that, and slowly developed a relationship with a friendship with somebody who worked in the state capitol, and they invited me to start an internship. And I think that's where I started my very first interest in public policy and politics, but honestly, I thought I was going to be a great American writer, write the great American novel and travel all around and write for National Geographic magazine from the top of the Himalayas. But that's kind of the start of the story.
Now, did you have to share the spotlight with other siblings, or were you an only child? Tell me a little bit about that.
I was the only child for most of my life. My mother and father separated and divorced when I was in high school.
Okay.
My mother, I'm still my mother's only child. My father got remarried, and he had 2 daughters. So I have 2 half sisters that I know, but they're a lot younger than me. But they're great sisters.
They're still sisters.
Yeah, still stay in touch, and we're close. One's here in California, and another one's back on the East Coast.
Now, when you say California, was it Northern California, Central, Southern California that your family moved to?
Yeah, my father retired out of Alameda, actually out of what was called Naval Station San Francisco, which doesn't exist anymore. And it was a combination of Treasure Island, Yerba Buena Island, where we lived right in the middle of the San Francisco Bay Area, and Hunters Point and some other military facilities in the Bay Area. So he retired there, and I went to high school in the San Francisco Bay Area. I went to St. Joseph's Notre Dame, the home of Jason Kidd, and a great small school up in Alameda. And then I went to UC Davis for college, which took me a little bit closer to the state capitol in Sacramento. And that proximity really kind of started to make my interest in writing be more about politics, just because we're so close to the capitol.
That's interesting. So what was the experience of having a little international actually change you? Because you said you lived in the United States, but then in some other countries. How do you think that kind of changed your overall DNA as a leader or as an individual?
Well, I think the opportunity to see different parts of the country and the world is really important for young people, and it was for me. It gave me, a perspective that said there's more that exists in the world outside of my hometown, and that, always allows you to know and understand that there are different perspectives. There are different cultures, there are different ways that people think about things, and the world is, not as homogeneous as some people may find their little small hometowns to be. So I had the benefit of seeing so much, and all over Europe. We traveled all over Europe when I was young. We traveled through the Pacific and Asia when I was young. And that was a neat experience. We drove all over the United States. But the downside is that unlike people here in the community who can say that they've had friends since kindergarten, or some of them are, multiple generation Ventura County that have streets and beaches named after them. I don't have necessarily those kind of roots here. My wife is born and raised in Ventura County, but moving every 2 years means that you have to say goodbye to a lot of friends, and you never become numb to that, but that does allow you to make new friends, and I think that experience is positive. But I definitely envy those people that can say that they've known people since kindergarten and have those strong relationships, family relationships. But this now, Ventura County, really is home to me. It's the first place that I've ever lived, and I've been here since the late 90s. It's the first place I've ever lived that wasn't dictated by where my father was stationed or by where I was going to college or law school. So it is. This is home for me, and this is where my roots are, and so it means a lot.
Now, you probably, I'm guessing, because of the place you've been, do you still have people you know from every area that you have some type of connection with?
Yeah, I do. I stay in touch with a few people that I've known from Hawaii, a few people from after Hawaii in the San Francisco Bay Area. I lived on an island, right in the middle of the San Francisco Bay Island, right in the middle of the San Francisco Bay. So if you drive from Oakland to San Francisco, you actually go through the island, Yerba Buena Island. There's trees on it, and people sometimes call it Treasure Island, but it's really Yerba Buena. And living on that island, going to high school while on that island, had to go on a bus every day to Alameda, learning how to drive while living on that island. You're a daredevil when you learn how to drive, and you've got to go from 0 to 65 in about 4 seconds to get to merge onto the Bay Bridge. But growing up on an island when there are only a small handful of kids that are my age means you grow very close relationships, and we still stay in touch. Jeff Rothwell lives back in the East Coast, and Matt Curtin is actually here locally, and those are all kids I grew up with on that island. And it wasn't quite Lord of the Flies. We didn't actually run the island.
A little better than
but there
that.
were times we felt like we did. We built our own forts. We explored the island. We had. It was literally felt like we had our own tropical island to ourselves, even though we're right in the middle of one of the most populated bays in the world, the San Francisco Bay Area. But it was a very neat experience growing up.
I can imagine that you were somewhat of a leader and people looked at you even though this was this small island. So was that like one of the first times you had a chance to, maybe you didn't know it back then, but to be an actual leader of a group?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because my father was a commander at the time in the Navy, and I ended up, now I'm a commander. But looking back then, I think more than anything, I just was able to watch my father in the relationships and the position he had, and that command authority, and then that's really where I developed my understanding of leadership, is watching my father, as somebody who I look up to, a role model, a hero, a mentor for me, and him being a leader in the military and somebody that people really respected and would follow into any kind of a challenge, including combat. I believe that's what helped for me to formulate an understanding of there are those in this world who are leaders, and there are those in this world who are followers.
That's a good one. And is your father still around, Mask, or did he?
He is, yeah. Thank you for asking. He's in Washington, D.C. area, and he works for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
That's impressive.
It's neat. It's a really neat experience for him, because he spent his career in the Navy, but then he was able to transition, and now he's in the deep sea exploration unit of NOAA.
Whoa.
So he's been able to go on oceanic explorations all over the world. Indonesia. He's been able to go down in submersibles and see, midget submarine that was sunk off of Pearl Harbor the early morning, December 7th, 1941, actually before the air attack, by the USS Ward, a Navy reserve ship, sunk that midget submarine outside the mouth of Pearl Harbor, early before the air attack. It was the first shots fired for America in World War II. So we, it's good to see my dad in that role, because it's that life aquatic, I think, that he loves.
Yeah.
Being in that, being connected to the ocean, being connected to the sea, is very rewarding for him, I think.
What are some of the traits? Obviously, you inherit genes, but what were some of the characteristics that you saw in your dad that you're seeing in yourself now, Jeff?
I think my father, his characteristics were thoughtful leadership.
Thoughtful leadership.
Even in the legislature, I asked myself, well, how would my father approach this position? He's a pragmatic person, but people know that if he comes to a conclusion and shares a vision, that he's given a lot of thought and it's worth following. So people follow him because he has that ability to communicate a vision and then get people to follow him. And I hope that I've inherited that. On my mom's side, she's one of 8 brothers and sisters, and my mom has got a big heart. She's very sharing. She took care of her younger sisters when she was an early preteen and a teen. And so my mom is a caregiver at heart, a big heart, very sharing and good bedside manner, very personable and affable. And so I think those are hopefully the traits I've inherited from my father and my mother's is that the big heart for my mom and the leadership and the vision of my father.
Well, I love you say it because, again, I'm no psychologist, but I've always been told that a male gets his personality or temperament from his mom, but when you have a good role model of father, you pick up traits from your father. So looks like you got a 1 + 1 = 5 type of situation. So that I was going to ask who your mentors are, but you definitely answered that question real well. But one question I'm kind of burning, I've interviewed a lot of the candidates, but if I had to say who is the most fit one, you are. Is there anything special, or do you starve yourself, or do you train? I know you get up early in the morning and exercise, but what do you do different?
Thanks. I try to eat healthy. I work out 3, 4, 5 days a week, depending on how terrible the week is. Especially with the campaign, it's not easy. But I feel like the Navy and the Navy Reserve has forced me to focus on physical fitness. Because, twice a year I have to perform a physical fitness examination, a PFA, and I don't like to get behind the ball on that. I try to keep in shape. I try to do cardio. I try to work out, and physical fitness is not only good, for your stamina and your energy level, but it's good for your heart. And I'm hoping to live longer. I want to see my kids grow up. I've got 3 of them. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old son, and then a baby boy who's 7.5 months.
Wow.
And I want them to live, to be old, and still have me around. So I'm going to try to stay in shape for that.
A good answer on that one. You mentioned your kids. I know you're very proud of them, but somebody who you would connect with, being married to, I've seen pictures of her, I've seen family groups.
Yeah.
Tell us about your spouse. I know she has to be somebody very special to put up with somebody of your profile, being a husband myself, but can I ask that question that way? Tell us a little about her.
Yeah, thank you. My wife is amazing. She really is, and she's when you are able to be a military spouse and to deal with the challenge of having a husband, myself, be unexpectedly deployed for a year, and to be able to meet that with the resolve and the success that my wife has, and other military spouses out there, that's about the biggest challenge you can have. And you have to, and she had to, step up and become not just the mom, but become the dad, the financier, the accountant, the lawnmower, the repairman. She was everything for a year to support the family, to allow me to go downrange and to be forward deployed. And we as a nation wouldn't be able to send people anywhere if we didn't have families back at home holding down the home front. Now, it takes a certain kind of personality to do that. It takes a strong personality, a determined personality, and a very loving, supportive personality. And thankfully, my wife has all of those. And so I married up. We're married a very beautiful person, inside and out, and I will never take that for granted. So Laura, my wife is amazing. So
I want to give Laura an applaud for being a empowered woman, and then doing it all, raising empowered children, both son and daughter, and then
and the role of a mom is so challenging. The role of a mom, I have so much respect for particularly when you're trying to do so much of it on your own, when your husband, like me, is either in Sacramento or deployed overseas. So even while I was in Afghanistan, we could have some of the worst environment in terms of being, rocketed throughout the night and spend half of the night in a hardened shelter. The next day I would call her and I would never complain about how difficult it was, because sometimes being a mom is one of the hardest jobs ever.
So.
And all of the challenges back here, I would try not to ever complain about my environment, because I know what a difficult job it is for her and for other mothers out there, or spouses who are holding down the home front, whether it's the husband or the wives.
Well, I sense you honor your wife for that, and since you have a daughter or daughters,
Yeah, I have a 12-year-old daughter.
12-year-old daughter, you're going to honor her as you empower her as she grows up.
Absolutely. My mother was a strong, passionate person.
Mm-hmm.
Another role model of mine was Captain Jill Votosh. She was my first commanding officer in the Navy Reserve. So I came in as a wide-eyed young ensign, newly commissioned ensign, and my commanding officer, Captain Jill Votosh, strong woman, was so smart, so passionate, and she trained me and got me prepared emotionally and mentally and physically to be ready for my first deployment to Afghanistan just a few years after that, in 2001, shortly after 9/11. And it's women like Captain Votah, who's a graduate of the Naval Academy, women like that I think helped me make me strong too, and respect so much the role of women, not just as mothers and wives, but as leaders at every level in our country.
That says about us men, if we can take direction, orders, learn from an empowered woman, I think that's something that, you're really teaching men an example of. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, I just think this was an incredible interview. Thank you so much for just opening up your life to me and to
Thank you.
to the
Thank
audience.
you very much. Yeah.
I think that went very well. So again, Jeff Gorell, running for U.S. Congress 26th District. And this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador, KNY TV. Meet the candidate, Jeff Gorell.